It's Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. Markets closed a little over an hour ago. Wanted to make this video, kind of recap on some of the latest news and the markets. Markets across the board, very, very flat today. No big recovery from yesterday. The markets could not muster up a comeback. Again, markets very, very flat. Be very interesting to see what they do tomorrow. But what's the light at the end of the tunnel? What's the good news to pull these markets up? If the Fed does not step in and help these markets out, these markets are going to be in very, very big trouble. As I said a long time ago, many of you said the same thing, that without the Fed, these markets are helpless because they're fake, they're rigged, and they've been completely manipulated by the Fed. It's not a booming economy that caused the markets to soar. It's this booming Fed injections time and time again that caused the markets to soar. And as we know, all Ponzi schemes eventually come to an end. First article I want to share with all of you today comes from CNN. The Fed could crash the housing market. No, the Fed is going to crash the housing market. 30-year fixed rate right now for a mortgage sitting at, I believe, 6.08%. That's with perfect credit. That's with 20% down. The average individual buyer right now is probably going to be paying upwards of around 7% now on a 30-year fixed rate. Really quick before I forget, I've been watching a couple videos. A channel called Kevin. It's all in caps, capital K, capital E, capital V, capital I, and Kevin, K-E-V-I-N, capital. And I really, really like this channel, and I wanted to give Kevin a shout out. He really has a great perspective on things, and anywhere from talking about the type of people you need to be surrounding yourselves with, what's happening out on the streets of America, real estate, what's happening to this country financially, what's happening to the consumer. Really, really good channel. And anytime I come across a great channel, and by the way, a friend of mine referred me to this channel, and I've been watching it the past few days, and I really like what Kevin's doing. So check his channel out. We need to be supporting people like this who are, boots on the ground, sharing with us what's really happening. So check that channel out, Kevin. Next article coming from CNBC titled Mortgage Demand from Home Buyers Falls 29% since last year as interest rates surge past 6%. As I said earlier, we're looking at 6.08% on a 30-year fix. That's the national average. And you better have very, very good credit. But think about this number. And when I think that that mortgage demand has fallen 29% since last year, we're going to see an absolute reckoning in the housing market. And as I watch these financial channels daily, watching them again today, nobody even talking about this article, nobody talking about what's happening in housing. Application volume dropped 1.2% from last week compared with the previous week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association seasonally adjusted index. Since last year, home buyers' demand for mortgages has fallen nearly 1/3, by 1/3. That's, I mean, just really when you think about how big that number is and where this is going. And now, today, we are over 6% on a 30-year. This is going to have a catastrophic impact. And let's not forget, on the 21st, a week away, we're going to see the Fed raise rates 75 to 100 basis points. Market Watch had an article out this morning, the biggest Fed rate hike in 40 years, question mark. It could be coming next week. Will it be 100 basis points? I would not be shocked. No doubt 100% on 75 basis points. I think that we could be looking at a 50% chance now at a 100 basis point rate hike next week by the Fed. Whatever the case may be, it is too little too late. They are not stopping inflation. And if they raise 75 or 100 basis points next week, I don't think it's going to do much. It's just not aggressive enough. And another problem is the Fed cannot control the food crisis, and it cannot control the energy crisis that's taking place. This is why this thing is so bad, ladies and gentlemen. We're approaching $31 trillion of debt. We have a food crisis, no doubt, taking place. We have an energy crisis. These things could be fixed quickly, but they're not. But for whatever reason, they're not going to be fixed anytime soon. We have a shipping crisis, a food crisis, an energy crisis, a debt crisis, and an inflation crisis, and more crisis on top of that. It's a really big disaster, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon. I believe it's going to get much worse, actually, and this is why it's so imperative that all of you continue to stay on path, continue to prepare. This thing is really getting ugly, and the markets today could not muster any kind of comeback, just flat across the board. It does not look good. And as I've said earlier, eventually the economy, the housing market are going to rip the stock market down. No matter how much manipulation there is, it's coming down. And look, I don't think the Fed is going to pivot. Everybody who told us in the beginning that the Fed wouldn't even raise interest rates one time, they were wrong. Then the Fed began to raise rates. Then they said the Fed will pivot after the second rate hike. Well, they didn't do that either. And here we are, September 21st, looking at a possible 100 basis point rate hike. And then I think we have one last rate hike following that. And 2023 is a brand new year, and I think we're going to see more rate hikes. The hedge. Yesterday's CPI showed why nearly all people who pretend they know what is going on really have no clue. All the economists believed that the CPI numbers would be better. They were not. Many people have been telling us that the Fed would pivot. Many people told us that inflation was transitory. Many people are still telling us we're not even in a recession right now. All these people have been wrong. And look, I will admit, I was wrong. I thought we would see better numbers regarding the CPI yesterday. I really thought somehow they would at least manipulate it. Think about that, where we're at right now with inflation and how manipulated the CPI is right now. And that's as good as they could get it. And it was worse than expected. That's pretty scary. That is really scary. But 8.3%, we know it's at least double that, maybe much worse, maybe 20%. It's very bad. But just think of all the tricks and manipulation, and they still couldn't get it better than 8.3%. Core producer prices hotter than expected in August as services cost rise. This on the hedge. This excludes food and energy, ladies and gentlemen. Core PPI rose 0.4% month over month, more than the 0.3 expected. Now, here's something that should concern all of us. And now there are people in the comments that said, look, this is not going to happen. And we're talking about the railroad strike, that they've already come to an agreement. But have they? District 19, International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers voted against the agreement today. So they could, that's almost 5,000 railroad workers right there. That could be a big problem. So until we have an agreement with these unions, we have no agreement. And we could be looking at a strike. There's probably about a 50% chance we could see a strike with the rail union. Amtrak canceling all long-distance trains in worry of this strike. Now, listen to this. If all 7,000 long-distance freight trains available in the U.S. stopped running, the country would need 460,000 long-haul trucks daily to make up for the loss. Think about the magnitude of this volume with these trains and how dependent. I mean, the railroads, the trains are really the lifeline, the veins of this country, along with trucking. And we're hearing about a possible UPS strike, the nurse strike in Minnesota, the railroad strike. Now they're talking about right out here on the West Coast, the port workers going on strike. This is incredible what is taking place. We look at the food processing plants that have burned down. We look at over 40 million chickens and turkeys that have been euthanized because of bird flu. We look at the tens of thousands of dead cattle because of the drought. And it's just a relentless amount of pain and suffering going on in this country in literally almost every sector, and it's not getting better. It just continues to get worse. It's just really an historic time in the U.S. Twilio to lay off 11% of workforce. This on CNBC this morning. They have close to 7,900 employees. The cloud communication software builder has been striving for profitability. And they're trying to get more efficient. And how are they going to do that? They're going to lay off more people. And I'm sure that these are probably well-paying jobs. And you take this number of 7,900, that's literally going to be close to 1,000 workers right there, good paying jobs. Most of these people probably own homes, own cars, and they're going to lose their jobs. And we're going to see more continued layoffs in tech, in construction, in real estate, in the hospitality industry, across the table, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see more layoffs coming, massive layoffs. And there's going to be a point in this country where people are going to be begging for a job. And it's not even going to matter how much it pays, because they're going to get hungry, because they're going to find out that all the stimulus is done. The government's not going to come and save you. Your politicians are not going to save you. And when people begin to get hungry, they'll do anything. People will come to the realization that they will take jobs and do things they never thought they would ever do when they come to a point where they're hungry or their kids are hungry. And right now, if you can get a job, maybe it's not the career path you want to go, maybe it's not your passion, but right now, if you can get a job, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and just raise and save as much capital as possible, I think you'll be very, very glad you did that, because people, they're going to be begging for jobs at some point. And if you're doing a good job at your job and you're employed and you're doing a good job, you're going to stick around. The people who've decided to stay home, the quiet quitters, the people who are just waiting for help, employees don't want to keep these kind of people around. They want people who are going to work. And somebody who's been loyal and dedicated to their job, more than likely are going to be the last ones to go. So I think it's important right now to make money, to raise as much capital as possible, to just take pride in what you do and do the best job you can. And I know that there'll be people that write in and go, oh, the employees don't care, or the employers don't care. And the job industry has it out for the workers, and they're not paying us enough, and corporate America's bad, and etc. I get it. But you don't have to work in corporate America. You could go work for a small business. I mean, what's the answer? Just stay at home and do nothing, produce nothing, just put your hands out begging for free money, for a check? I don't know how anybody could look themselves in the mirror, have any respect for themselves, just hoping for a handout, hoping that the government's going to send them another stimulus check. There's something to say about producing something, whether it's a service, whether you produce a product, making something, just having some type of service that helps somebody. There's something prideful about that. There's something satisfying about that at the end of the week when you get a paycheck, that you actually did something. And for a lot of people, that's kryptonite. For a lot of people, they don't ever want to do that. They want to sit at home and be taken care of. And this is going to be another problem for this economy in order to recover. How does it recover when it doesn't make anything, doesn't produce anything, and you have a lot of people out there who don't want to work, who don't want to produce anything, who don't want to make anything, who don't want to be involved in any type of service? It's a big problem. It's going to be very, very hard for this economy to recover. And I'm very concerned about that. And I know a lot of you are too. But what do you think about people who don't want to work because they just believe that somebody should take care of them, somebody should pay their college tuition? They go and get a degree, then they don't work. There's all these jobs out there that we're being told. You can flip burgers for $18 an hour and pay off your college tuition debt. But no, these people choose to have you and I paid off. I think by doing this, it sends such a bad message to people. There's no motivation by just paying people to go to school, paying people to sit at home, paying people to do nothing. I think that's, in a sense, a very, very bad message. I think it's very, very damaging to the morale of this country. I think it's very damaging to the economy. And I think that it's going to be a big, big problem down the road. Another article today, U.S. considers sanctions on China to deter Taiwan attack. This to me, ladies and gentlemen, and we've talked about this many times, this to me is absolute suicide. If you think the shipping crisis is bad right now, you start slapping sanctions on China. And they're talking about possibly doing this before China even does anything to Taiwan. So whether they put sanctions on Taiwan before or after they do anything, it doesn't matter. It's going to be suicide. The people that believe this is a good idea are the same people who believe that Walmart is some type of utopia where cheap goods just appear out of nowhere. Let me tell you where they come from, ladies and gentlemen. They come from China. That's where all these cheap goods come from. And the zombies believe that you can slap sanctions on China and nothing bad is going to happen, that Walmart is still going to have all these cheap products for you to go to. Newsflash for everybody. You start slapping sanctions on China, you're going to have big, big problems. This would be catastrophic for the U.S. economy, catastrophic for the markets. Think about how many U.S. businesses are over in China right now, and you're talking about slapping sanctions on China. Think about what we just did with Russia and the sanctions. Their currency now is stronger than it's ever been. It's one of the strongest currencies in the world at this point. They've become much richer as they are an oil-rich nation, and they're selling more oil than ever. China would only benefit from the same sanctions. And what I think a lot of people don't realize, and a lot of people will probably argue with me and disagree with me, China does not need America any longer. Asia is growing. The world is growing. India is growing. China now has Russia, another large population. And these are going to be up-and-coming parts of the world that are going to see gigantic economic booms, including China, including Russia, including India, all the BRICS nations, and many more to come. They're working on the SIP system. They're working on new currencies. They're working on new oil pipelines, new trade deals. They're leaving America behind, and they don't want to be controlled by a weaponized U.S. dollar. You sanction China, you are going to push the world away, and you are going to, I believe, really hurt America, as these countries now are going to befriend one another, ignore America, push America out. And America just isn't going to have the dominance. Yes, we can go into dust bowls like Iraq, which we never won. We can go all over the world into these little countries and try to control them. But we're not going to control nuclear superpowers like China, like Russia. We're not going to control countries like India. The BRIC nations know what's coming. And this is why I'm adamant that gold is going to be such an important part of your portfolio. Not financial advice. This is what I'm doing. I believe gold is going to be so important in the future here. And, you know, people will say, why hasn't gold done anything? Because nothing big has happened yet. Wait till these countries begin to change the way the world operates, how they change banking, the new SIP system, new gold-backed currencies, new digital currencies. It's all going to change, ladies and gentlemen. And America and the U.S. dollar are going to be left in the dust. And this is why I believe we have to change with it. And gold is going along for the ride. Silver is going along for the ride. The dollar, in my opinion, is on borrowed time. Doesn't mean it's going to collapse tomorrow. I think it's very important to have dollars at this point. But there's going to come a point in time where you do not measure your wealth in dollars. You're going to measure it in ounces. And I want to finish with this last article from The Hedge. Verizon shares slide after CEO warns of wireless subscriber decline. Year to date, Verizon stock is down 21%. You know things are getting very bad when people cannot afford their cell phone bills. If they cannot afford to pay their cell phone bills, you know they're not paying their car bills. That's why we're seeing 15,000 repossessions a day just in the US. And this is why I believe we're going to see a massive housing collapse in America, because people can't even pay their cell phone bills. They can't pay their car bills. How in the world are they going to make those mortgage payments? We're going to see more people becoming more and more delinquent. We're going to see more short sales, more foreclosures, more defaults, more trouble ahead. But when you see what's happening to these cell phone companies, and this latest one, like Verizon, down 21% year to date, people cannot afford their cell phones. This is a huge indication that the economy is breaking apart. And when I pay my cell phone, I'll call up and it'll be automated, and the automation operator says, hey, you know, if you can't make the full payment, let us know what you can pay. This is how bad it is. And this was going on over a year ago. This was happening. I'm a Verizon customer, and this was happening over a year ago. There were already a lot of people struggling to pay their cell phone bills. And now they're basically putting you on a payment plan to pay for your cell phone. This is how bad it's getting. So be very cautious out there. And before I close today, also be very cautious of scams. I had a friend of mine I was talking to the other day tell me how a friend of his scammed him out of some money on a business that they were trying to open. And we're going to see more desperation. You're going to see more scams. Be cautious of the comments down below. All these channels now have these bots, have these scammers. They will use like my face, my name, try to WhatsApp you. This is happening on other channels where they will take other content creators' faces and names and, you know, try to reach out to you to WhatsApp, try to sell you some crypto, etc. They're trying to scam you. I would never, ever be in the comments telling you to WhatsApp me. I don't even have WhatsApp. I'm not going to ask you for money. I'm not going to sit in the comments, try to sell you anything. I have nothing to sell you. So be very, very cautious. We're going to see more of this type of crime. So as I leave you today, be very, very cautious. These criminals, these scammers are getting more and more advanced. And so they will text message you, they will email you, they will hit you up on social media. So we're going to see more desperation. We're going to see more advanced scamming going on. So be cautious out there. Don't give anybody your information. Don't allow anybody to steal money from you. So be careful out there. Have a great day. God bless all of you. And stay on path. Continue to prepare, ladies and gentlemen. No big bounce back today. And it doesn't matter if the Dow Jones went up 1,000 points today. It does not change my belief in what is happening right now and in what is about to happen. The economy is dead on arrival. I don't think they can resuscitate it. I don't know if the U.S. economy can ever come back to what it was. We've never fixed things from 2008. It's much worse. It's going to get much worse. And it really, really scares me. It concerns me, because we know that when people get hungry, when they get desperate, we're going to see a social collapse take place, and then we're going to have really, really big trouble. So be careful out there. Get all of your house in order. Get everything in order, ladies and gentlemen. Walk close to God. Ask God for direction. Ask God for protection. And I look forward to speaking with all of you very, very soon.